MRC channel. If you are joining me as a subscriber, welcome back. I appreciate you coming here to watch my videos. I've gained quite a few subscribers over the last couple months, so I want to thank each and every one of you. If you are a new viewer, if you like the video and you want to see what I've got coming out next, hit the subscribe button down below and I will appreciate it very much. So today it's a little bit different. I've got a customer's transmission in the shop for a mud drag truck. It's a Turbo 400 GM transmission. It's been behind, some of the big blocks and that sort of thing. Quite a bit of money in this one, so it's going behind a 1100 horsepower big block E85 nitrous Chevy, 489 cubic inches. I know there's a lot of videos on YouTube about how automatic transmissions work, but everyone has their own way of explaining things, and I'm going to go over quickly how this particular transmission works and try to simplify it down as much as I can. A lot of people don't understand how they really work. First of all, we're going to take a look at the case. I have the back half assembled so that the front half makes a bit more sense. Right, so this is the case of the Turbo 400 transmission. So this is normally what all the guts inside are held inside the case. So what you can see right here is the valve body, the case side of it. Typically you'd have another piece of hardware that's bolted to this, and that's going to control where the fluid goes inside the transmission. Okay, so we are looking at the front of the transmission case, looking inside. These holes here are where the pump on the front of the transmission push fluid through to the valve body that we were just looking at. Basically, the back half of this transmission has been assembled, and it contains all of the gears which give you first, second, and third speed. This is a 3-speed transmission. So, if we look in here, you can see that there is two different shafts, right? So you've got your intermediate shaft and your sun gear shaft there, but you can see that as I spin one, the other one turns in the opposite direction. So this is actually what happens in first gear. Now to get second gear, we would hold this using the front half of the transmission, which we'll get to later. So if you hold this one and spin this one, the output shaft hooked to the drive shaft will actually spin a little bit faster. Now third gear would be spinning both of these at the same time, clockwise. Okay, and those would be the fastest gear. So that's direct drive, which means the speed of the engine is going to be the speed of your drive shaft. Okay, so we are looking at the case again on the back, and I'm going to zoom in on this spot right here. You can see this lug right here, okay? That is actually where some of those gears are at that we were talking about just a second ago. But this is the same speed, this turning right here is the same speed as what my drive shaft will be spinning. So what I'm going to do is spin it in first, second, and third gear so you can see the speed difference. So this would be first gear, and I'm going to spin these the same speed on all of them, okay? Now ready for second gear? Okay, and then third gear. You can see the difference, right? So we're going to shift his first, a little bit slower. First, second, and third. And all I had to do was basically change what I did with the larger sun shaft that we just looked at. Okay, so this is the fluid pump. This is the forwardmost part on the transmission itself. So if you were to pull the transmission off of your vehicle and look inside, this is what you'd see. Okay, this shaft doesn't move, and we won't need to get into that today, but it splines in with the torque converter. There is a vane in here. Well, actually this has a G-rotor pump inside of here, so that when the torque converter is spinning, there's splines on it, and it actually turns the pump and pumps fluid out of these holes on the back side. That's really all there is to the pump. Some sealing rings and that sort of thing, some bushings, a thrust washer. Now this is the pressure relief spring, so to boost the pressure up from the pump, you can actually change the spring. Too hard, you're going to break parts. Not hard enough, you could slip the transmission if you've got enough horsepower. So this has obviously been upgraded on this transmission. So this is the input shaft and the forward drum. So this has got a clutch pack in it. And if I show you here, okay, this is loose. If you had it in first, second, or third gear, this would actually be tight. So the intermediate shaft we looked at earlier, that's inside of the transmission, actually splines into this. And you'd be able to spin this inside right now. So this splines in with the torque converter. Basically think of it as a clutch. a fluid clutch. So when the engine's spinning, you can actually stop one side of it, this. If you're at a stop sign, this is going to be stopped. But of course your engine's still spinning, and now if you spin the engine up fast enough, you're going to start to turn this shaft. And that's basically how you control the rest of the transmission, is through this. On this particular transmission, this is going to be the first thing, or I should say the next thing that breaks. This is still a factory shaft. They're good to somewhere around that 800 horsepower, but because this truck runs in the mud, it doesn't have quite as much torque put through all of the shaft components, so everything back to the wheels. There's not quite as much torque applied to them as you say in a drag car. So that's the only reason why this one is still lasting. So what we have here is the direct drum. This is used both for third gear and reverse. Now if I flip this over, since we've shown you the forward drum which controls all of your forward gears, so first, second and third, this is how you get second gear. If you remember, we showed you the larger shaft on the inside of the case. If you hold that still, you get second gear if you turn the inside shaft. Well, this is called a sprag. So this is it's a splined hub which I can turn in one direction, but it locks going the other way. And you would use this clutch pack here. So the friction discs are splined to this hub, and the steel discs are splined to the case itself. So when you lock this clutch pack up, you can actually stop this drum from moving, and that's what gives you second gear. I'm going to assemble this clutch pack so you can see how it works. So when you want third gear, the clutch pack inside of here is going to basically lock everything through the entire transmission as one unit. So that way it's direct drive. So the drive shaft's going to be moving the same speed as the input shaft. So you can see here, this is the piston. That actually, normally you'd have a rubber seal around the inside and the outside to hold the pressure in. So that sits down into the bowl like that. And you can see that this moves in and out like that. Okay, so these little ridges here hold the return springs. And this little retaining clip goes on there, and if you push that down, you'd put a snap ring in there to hold it down, because when you push the piston up and engage the clutch packs, if you want to go back into second gear, you're going to have to release it. So these springs actually push the piston back down and take pressure off of the clutch pack. So we're going to leave that out to make this a bit easier. So if I take this out, you can see this waved plate right here. This is actually the apply area. So this is the only thing that pushes up on the clutch pack. And it tends to be an issue with high horsepower, and we'll show you that in a second. Okay, so that's the basic drum. We're going to put the clutch pack in now. And you can see this is a spring plate, so this is, it's not straight, it's actually waved, and that cushions the apply of this clutch pack a little bit. So that goes in first. So this is a clutch pack. You can see a steel disc and a friction disc. Now you can see that the outside is burnt, and the inside looks brand new yet. Now that's because of that design in there and the high pressures we need to run in this transmission to make sure that we don't slip. It actually started to warp everything and cause it to burn slightly. So they can get much worse than this. They can actually melt and be completely free of any friction material, but we caught this one at the right time, and we are doing things to fix that. So I'm going to assemble this inside of there right now so you can see how that works. Okay, so now that we have our clutch packs installed, this is the pressure plate, and this is what sits down in here, and everything the piston can push against that. After you put a snap ring, this would snap inside of here and hold this in. Now you can see that this has actually got a pretty nice sized crack in it right here, so it's actually broken. And that is because of that, the waved plate that pushes up and everything is so uneven. It actually got this so hot and stressed it so much that it broke. This is the second one we've broken this transmission, so we are taking care of that on this rebuild because we are putting enough pressure through it to cause some damage like this. So one such modification that we are going to be doing is a billet piston. So you can see it looks quite nice compared to the stock steel unit. Now this is aluminum, which it's actually lighter than the stock piston, so it'll be a little bit quicker reacting. Now you can see the difference here is absolutely astonishing. This is what was pushing up in the clutch pack on this setup. Look at the surface area of this. It's so much bigger. It's going to be so much more even. And it just sits down just the same as the other one. So you can see that there. And you got your place for your springs. Now this transmission is getting a trans brake, and what that does is basically lock reverse first gear in at the same time. So if your brakes can't hold your vehicle when you're sitting on the line, the trans brake will actually lock the transmission together, so that way you can rev the engine up higher without fear of the brakes not holding. To do that, this piston is actually used with the trans brake. So we're going to upgrade these springs as well that sit down here, and that releases this clutch pack a lot quicker when you let go of the trans brake. So that way we don't burn up these clutches. We don't want them to drag, because this thing is going to start spinning at 70 miles an hour pretty much instantly. So we don't want this to drag, which means we're going to upgrade these springs to get that piston down out of the way as quickly as possible. Okay, so that's basically how an automatic transmission works. You've got your pump, which is first. Input shaft, forward drum. This is locked up in first, second, and third gear, and it's released in reverse. Then your direct drum, which controls third gear, and then you've got your intermediate clutch pack, which controls second gear. This is going to be spinning all the time. This is going to be locked with the case in second gear, and then in third gear, this and this will actually turn as one unit, and that's how you get the direct drive. So that's the basics of an automatic transmission. All of the components that you've seen in this video are upgradable. So you can get billet 300M shafts, forged aluminium drums to cut a lot of rotating weight out. You can actually make this into a 2-speed transmission and get rid of the second gear, the intermediate gear altogether. You can upgrade all of the clutch pack, pistons, pump, and you can actually buy aftermarket cases which are SFI rated for drag racing, a lot safer, a lot stronger, and even lighter in some cases. Trans brakes in them, output shaft to suit different vehicles. You can actually even change the torque converter. So we are using a 5500 RPM stall converter in this truck, which means with the trans brake locked and him full throttle, he should be sitting on the line at 5500 RPMs, which is somewhere around 800 foot-pounds of torque. So this transmission does go through a lot of abuse, but it's held up pretty well through 3 seasons now. So we are going to finish putting this together and get it back to the customer, and hopefully we'll have another winning vehicle with my name on the team. So that would be great. And thank you very much for watching this video. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please tell me in the comments section. This was kind of just a feeler to see if there's any interest in this sort of thing. I get things like this in my shop all the time, so if you'd like to see more of this, please comment and tell me. If you don't like it, tell me that too. I try to get to everyone's comments if I can, so you all have yourselves a great day, and we will hopefully see you on the next episode, which may be the Supra back again for a bit of wiring.